What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is your friendly neighborhood BJJ podcaster, RAF ESPARZA, coming to you with another great installment of the Bullpen, a joint venture between the Grappling Hour and Inside BJJ. I hope you're having a good day. I'm having a pretty solid day. You know, Tim and I were talking off air for a few minutes, and so we've been kind of getting ready. We went through our warm-ups, AEIOU and sometimes Y, unique New York. You know you need unique New York. Say that very fast. I'm a little rusty at all this stuff. But nonetheless, we've gotten ready for you guys. We have an excellent show. We hope you're ready. Without further ado, let's say hello to my very solid friend, Tim Freeman. Tim, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. The sun is out. It's a beautiful day. The snow's gone. The ice is melted. Everything's looking up, man. We got a lot of good stuff to talk about this week, Raf, and PGF Season 9. The start of the 2026 season is right upon us next week. I'm pumped for that. We're getting set up on new platforms. We've been talking about Kick. We've been doing our tongue twisters. My problem is I can't even say regular stuff without sounding like I'm saying a tongue twister. I don't know if my tongue has got fatter or I'm just literally getting dumber as I age, but the thoughts in the mouth sometimes disconnect. Great to see you, man.
Just the way you were mentioning, you're like, did my tongue get fatter? In the way that somebody might be like, dead ass got fatter, girl. Like, it is a little unique. I do want to tell you this, so check this out. You know, in the opening few minutes, whenever we have a few seconds before we get to the main board, I always like to share a little bit about what's going on. So in case you haven't noticed yes, your boy here moved. So this is similar but different. We're going to put it all together in a little while, but it's going to take some time because I'm still unpacking stuff. But when I do find a gem, I think I am going to share it with you guys. Tim, would you like to see the gem I am here to share with you today?
Please. Yes.
Okay. This is a candle. Now, if you know Mexicans, you know we love us some candles. And this is a candle that is in my bathroom if you ever make it as a guest here. And I think it's important for people to know so that they have a reason to come visit us once we're open for business. But this is a David Bowie candle. Now,
Ooh.
It is very funny because when I'm getting ready for the show, I look at this and it is, of course, his character from Labyrinth. And it just gets me thinking, like, man, how did Dance Magic Dance get stuck in my head before we're about to do a show? Like, before I have to get really serious about grappling issues. So my question to you to start everything off here today, Tim, what 80s fantasy movie sticks out in your head consistently where you can't get it out?
80s fantasy movie that sticks out in my head and I can't get it out. There's a couple, but and I don't know if this counts as fantasy. Man, I don't think it does. So let me go back. I would say Goonies. Goonies was kind of like in my wheelhouse as a kid. The challenge that I have, Raf, and this is true story. I didn't go to the movies growing up ever. So most of those 80s movies I didn't see in the 80s. I didn't see them till like the late 90s. I was like 15 years behind on most stuff. Had some VHS, but you know, I was more interested in renting obscure NWA Starcade 87 than I was watching Stand By Me. You know what I mean?
Tim's about to graduate from high school and is like, The Karate Kid really is a good movie, is it not? And they're like,
Right.
brother, it's almost the 2000s, sir.
Yeah. I didn't see Star Wars until, you know, George Lucas made the new Star Wars the second time, you know?
Oh, man, I'm very sorry about that. I just know my thought process and my understanding of all that world is I had two older sisters who very much grandfathered me into a lot of stuff. So I remember my sister showing me Star Wars and me thinking, like, does it get any better than Return of the Jedi? And her going like, you idiot. Yes, of course. So there is that. I saw on here we got a vote for C, which is J Muir 1234. who's letting us know he's won a couple Nagas, by the way. He said C, like who cares for the UFC, BJJ, and ADCC? Well, we do, and we'll get to that in a second. But before we do, let's also turn it over to the EP of the entire organization known as the PGF. One, Conscious Keelan saying, yo, less than a week, boys. Yeah, no, I know. Your boy's
Right.
nervous because I got to get in the car in a few days and make my way on out here. But we should remind you guys that Tim and I will be the official pre-show and post-show for all PGF all season long. And yes, I will be there live this Wednesday to kick things off with you guys. And Tim, you will be there as well, live with me. Granted, you're going to be remote.
Yeah, I was actually trying to get out there. However, and I mentioned this to Brandon last night. I found a flight on Spirit Airlines and I put it in the cart, and then I just had this gut check and I'm like, I'm going to put this in God's hands. I'm going to let this sleep just overnight. I'm going to think about this before I pull the trigger. And I woke up in the morning and I thought, I really promised myself I would love myself this year. So I'm not flying Spirit Airlines, and it was going to be a red eye. And I'm like, man, you can't ask two things. You could ask for one thing to go right. You can't ask for two things to go right. So I'm old enough now to know better. I'm going to plan it. I'm going to try to get out a couple times this time, but maybe the third week. I'm thinking like the third week, and then maybe
like Tim's gonna pick the most random week and watch it be the most eventful week of the entire organization. Right. So I feel that, and listen, Tim being there is a welcome presence anytime. It might actually be safer for you, Tim, because they're so close to me and they're all saying they have good sense of humor. All of them are taller than they need to be for this weight class. So there's a lot of things going in their favor. And they say, yes, I have a good sense of humor. I have a good sense of humor. Nothing can bug me. But we've seen that turn differently over the years. So
yeah.
I think we should move on here in a second. But I do want to respond to your thoughts. Goonies. I liked Goonies. I didn't fully embrace it in the way everybody else did. Like, I recognize, like, oh, it's a good movie. It's fun. It's kitschy. And I asked my friend one day who didn't like it. And it was a gay dude. And I was like, why didn't you like it? He goes, they're ugly kids. And I go, you know, you're not wrong. And I felt bad because I was just like, well, what does that matter? And he goes, they're just ugly and I can't get into that. And I thought, well, we hate it for different reasons then. I just didn't care about the material in terms of like, maybe the plot didn't matter to me. Maybe because I was already 40 years old mentally. It was like, the plot's not there enough for me. But
yeah.
I just always felt like Goonies was one that I could nod at and go, yeah, okay, I kind of see it. Good for everybody else. So I'm glad that's yours. But why did you specifically like the Goonies?
Well, I was trying to think fantasy. I'm like, man, and after I said it, I did think of a couple others, but I'm always breaking the rules. I did like The Lost Boys, and I did like The Never-Ending Story. That was actually a pretty cool movie as well growing up.
So talk about songs that get in your head. When I was a kid competing in speech, I definitely remembered going around like, ha, 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 the never-ending story. And I don't know why, but yeah. I think the great thing about doing speeches and some theater is you found those people. Because when I would start it, they would finish the song. And I go, oh, my kind of nerds.
3-part harmony. Yeah, right. Right.
Good job, nerds. You failed the test. All right, Tim, let's get straight into our topics right now. I'll reset the clock. All right, it just came announced this week that UFC BJJ is not going to allow their athletes to compete in the next ADCC. So they're grandfathered in for the upcoming one this year. But then after that, get out of here, you multitaskers. Get out of here, you wannabe champions for the world. Tim, what are your initial thoughts from just that announcement? Because there's more.
It doesn't surprise me. I was expecting some exclusivity. I thought there was chatter originally about there being exceptions for ADCC or some of the major events, but they're not going to do that. They're not going to play ball with people that aren't part of the UFC family. Having said that, it's probably not as great as these guys think it's going to be for them, given that once you get locked in and you can't go anywhere, if you didn't get the amount of money you're really looking for, you're going to kind of be stuck. And, that gives some of the other promotions some leverage. I don't know, man. Somewhere, Halleck Gracie is livid right now because love him or hate him, he tried to do this with Meta Morris. And yes, the timing was wrong. Yes, he should have paid the other athletes, all that. But just the idea was crucified. And now the UFC's coming out and doing it. And of course, the folks that are going to get exclusive contracts on the higher end of their range think it's a great idea. Why wouldn't they? Why would they want to compete everywhere else? They got a good gig. So I get that point. I think overall it's not great for grappling. Something Tom DeBlas said that I really do think makes sense is he said, look, you can grapple every week. It's not like MMA where you got to take some time off and let your body heal up, take care of your brain. You get pretty busted up. Grapplers can go pretty often. And if they're not having the opportunity to compete in any other places, then they're just hanging around. And that's not good for their brand either in the grappling world. So I don't know. I think it might be a mixed bag. We'll see if it's something that sticks long term.
Okay. That's a fairly balanced approach to all of this. Allow me to go a little slightly more unhinged here. So here are my thoughts on this. First off, if you're ever going to have an event like UFC BJJ, you have to build that from the ground up. Now, that doesn't exist here because there have been plenty of IBJJF notables, there have been plenty of CJI notables, and there have been plenty of ADCC notables that have made their way onto this format because they've gained status elsewhere. So does that mean they're not going to do stuff with IBJJF? Are we just getting salty about something that this organization doesn't like? Like, is the UFC still burnt by that Fight Pass experiment with ADCC? Don't know. None of this makes any sense to me because if you are using the achievements of those other organizations, how are you going to prevent these guys who truly want to be the best in the world? And remember, that's the claim, that they will have the best in the world, especially when you have somebody like Andrew Tackett, who just went out 2 weeks ago and said, as long as the best of the best is here, I will compete here. You are limiting that claim. And I wonder, because we've always talked about the UFC in the Olympics, and we have thoughts on that a little bit later today. But essentially, ADCC has always been our Olympics. So why are we now saying, not that one? Something's weird in this particular sense. And I don't understand why it is that we are trying to figure out, is this good for the athletes or not? And to me, I just feel it's a no-brainer. Let these guys go to ADCC so that you can have more bragging rights that the people at UFC BJJ, the athletes you have picked, are beating those other people. It seems entirely like an extra step we shouldn't and don't need to do. Now, granted, that has nothing to do with one person who really did go out of their way to make this argument. So, Tim, before I put it up here, what can you tell me about one person who really went out of their way to make an argument? And maybe it's going to be a person that catches us by surprise. Maybe somebody we didn't expect made the argument that's pro UFC BJJ.
I mean, maybe it caught some people by surprise. Didn't catch me by surprise. Of course, the guys that are getting good fat contracts, at least grappling wise, from UFC BJJ, they're going to love this. Why would I speak out against it? If I'm doing well, why am I going to say anything? I'm not saying that's the right approach to take, but that's the common approach that people are going to take. And part of it, I think, is people like to appeal to a higher value for why they make their decision. Sometimes the decisions are just, hey, this is better for me personally, you know? And instead of just saying that, they appeal to some other kind of higher moral or higher value to justify what they're doing. That's probably what this is. But I'm totally not surprised that this person said it.
Well, spoiler, that person was Mikey Musumeci. So, if we are coming to address this particular claim that he's making, we figured we would take his actual words and go line by line. It says, how dare the UFC not want to spend millions of dollars investing in jiu-jitsu athletes, building their athletes to get maximal, is that a word? Exposure just to donate their athletes to help other events.
Stop, because that's
ADCC,
hella rude. That's
one
so
event
rude.
every 2 years, winner makes $20K. UFC BJJ, 20 events, 20 per year. So, what's happening here? You had Mikey making the claim, you're going to make more by going to UFC BJJ. I think that part might be true. ADCC has long been hesitant to raise and increase their prices. We'll get to that in a second. I already hear you. But, yeah, maybe UFC BJJ is going to pay you more. Well, people in the comment section were asking Mikey how much. And he goes, believe me, a lot more. Which is hard to believe when you don't have evidence that supports that. Is it probably true? Yeah, I think so. So, Tim, what were your initial thoughts when you saw Mikey take the company line and defend this harder than DC telling you about UFC fighting?
Hey, real quick, that video
The audio?
yeah, or something. The background played really loud audio.
Gotcha. I'll take care of that right now. My apologies to anybody who's paying attention and maybe hearing the audio here. On my side, it should not be playing, so my apologies. Do you guys hear it on your side?
It went away now.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I think the fight video was playing. Anyway, by and large, I'll summarize my point again. Mikey was basically saying UFC BJJ is going to pay more than ADCC, which is probably true, but he did not get into specifics. Tim, what was your response when you initially saw all of this go up?
Yeah, I mean, this is putting the logic backwards. He's got the cart before the horse here. He's saying that these other organizations are benefiting and getting exposure. They're getting value, and the UFC is just donating these guys, and they're getting all this value. Actually, all those guys that are in UFC BJJ, they built their name and their careers not in UFC BJJ. They built them in ADCC and Who's Number One and all those other organizations. That's where they built their names. So I think he's flipped the logic around. It doesn't surprise me. I think he's shilling because it pays the bills, and he doesn't want to say that he's shilling. He wants to be like, I'm chilling. I'm Mikey. I'm cool. I'm appealing to the higher ideas here. I don't necessarily buy it, but I don't fault him for it. We're getting chatter that audio's still blasting. I don't know what's going on.
Don't worry about it. I'm on it. I do love that when something goes wrong, it's like, well, it's one of two people is going to fix that on the show. So
yeah,
it's more than likely going to be me. But don't worry, it has been fixed, and you're about to see the photo come back screenshot. Bam. Let me just kind of take a note here. Listen. I get that Mikey has to take the corporate line here, but I do wonder, when he posted something, he mentioned how he likes to debate. I think he likes the collection of a discussion on it, but it seems written in a very baity way. And I don't know the full intention of it, but it seems like when you write something like this, you are inviting a certain kind of snippy nature to it. So it doesn't surprise me when people are in the comment section going very aggressively about this, because to grapplers, this is the way that they make money. And who's to say that after a fight or two or a match or two, the UFC doesn't just discard you? I just had a friend who fought for the UFC, fought one fight, He's out now. I mean, stuff like that does happen. And yes, Mikey is in a place of privilege because he's going to be the person that they're going to take care of. But he also mentioned that other people are able to do different things because they have different contracts. So he was mentioning that he would be able to go compete in wrestling, or more specifically for his upcoming case, potentially have a new contract for mixed martial arts. And it begs the question, would everybody have that privilege? So there's a lot of stuff that we just don't know in this particular case, but that if you are signing away your ability to do anything else, you do limit yourself as a grappler. And yes, there is a vast machine behind the UFC that can have a major advantage, but we have seen those numbers go down significantly to the point where they're not hitting the showcase numbers that the Craig Jones Invitational hits, probably the ADCC hits, quite honestly. And that, yes, while the UFC can share a clip that could go viral, and that could be very important to an athlete's life, viral videos do not make you money regularly. That viral video doesn't give a cut to the fighter, it goes to the company. So while it may help you with exposure, exposure doesn't pay the bills. We're right back to where we started in jiu-jitsu if that is going to be the case. So I think you may need to sweeten the pot if you are UFC, but I do beg this question. We've complained that a number of times there has not been a person that they have announced for Andrew Tackett. Likely, they've been looking at other organizations, probably trying to make the easiest, most cost-effective deal possible with a brand new upstart from, well, not from UFC BJJ. Maybe from IBJJF? Maybe from other organizations that they're waiting to see who does it. So this isn't quite like, as they present in their metaphor, the UFC starting off where they were the underdog. Now they have all the advantages in the world, and they're not building the culture, they're usurping the top talent. And even then, it's built on the backs of other organizations. So don't be surprised if they partner with some other individuals as a pipeline to getting them in there. That's a big possibility. I do see that. And I've seen it a little bit with the PGF. But I do wonder, if those pipelines don't exist, how is it that the UFC BJJ is going to find their true next element of talent? So while anybody wants to present their arguments as to why it's a good thing, I think it's incredibly short-sighted to not have UFC stars that go clean up at ADCC, because wouldn't Giancarlo be conflicted as well as a two-time champ?
Right.
Just saying, because if Gordon's not going to be there, Giancarlo is a prime candidate for an absolute champion. So you mean to tell me in 2 years, let's say Giancarlo goes on a run, let's say he wins the absolute, that man can't compete because he's under UFC contract? I think that's a problem. So really what you are telling people, without saying it, is, yikes, if you are considering that absolute, because the absolute champion does tend to do that, and it will hinder the success of that organization. I see a note here from Egg that said, "Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you very much for that." And it says, "I wonder how much the UFC is paying for this exclusivity." I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think it's much. Honestly,
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure.
A handshake and a hot dog would be more than enough to solidify it here for some grapplers.
You get a free fight kit. You get a UFC BJJ rash guard and shorts, and then we're going to throw in a Venom mouthpiece that you can, like, big deal, $35 value. I think that Mikey might be getting paid reasonably well, but the rest of the dudes, maybe Tackett is. There might be a couple guys that are, getting compensated. But beyond that, like, what does the UFC do if they box out all the other organizations and there's literally no feed into the UFC BJJ. And the other thing is, athlete pay doesn't generally go up dramatically unless there's some dramatic thing that happens. And if you look at the pioneers in MMA, they did not make what the guys are making now, right? And the ones that made money were the ones that really pushed for it and treated it like, hey, there's more money here on the table to be gotten. And if these guys settle too early and they sell their exclusivity for not that much, years from now, they're going to be kicking themselves when the guys are getting paid maybe 10 times the amount. I don't know, but that's the pattern that a lot of sports follow. The early guys generally don't get paid very much.
So, gonna depend on the athlete. And then, of course, Egg. Hey, Russ, I'm the attorney. I'll be giving the it depends answers around here. Egg, you're not even our lawyer on a retainer yet, man. So I don't even know if you're allowed to give that information. Although you could be our attorney general, because as I've seen from the main government, that's pretty shady. So, all right. Let me see if I can clear this up, though. A couple of years ago, or a year ago now, I guess, UFC BJJ finds its way into our world. Less than a year. And there were a lot of people asking for good faith. Like, hey, this could be a good thing. Give it some room. And I feel like Mikey was at the top of that. And it was let's see, hold on, we don't know. This could be good for us. I do feel like we gave them some good faith. I'm sure the YouTube and the internet sections of comments were not always the kindest, but maybe their cynicism was not unfounded. Maybe they came in with an approach that they're going to try and monopolize it like they do the other things for the fight world. And that they'll get out of saying it's a monopoly from the lowest of low common denominators here. So maybe those people weren't unfounded when they said it could be a complicated thing for the community. And I think we're seeing one of those elements here. And I think we've also seen that Mikey was somebody who never competed in ADCC and then gave a laundry list as to reasons why he didn't compete in it. And then when it was asked, well, I would have, but here's what it was. In the comment section when he was responding to it, I think it was Gio Martinez, that was pushing him and saying like, hey man, you could have competed and you probably would have done incredibly well. A fairly respectable sort of approach. And Mikey gave his rationales, and part of that was that he didn't have the right weight class and that maybe he didn't need to do it. It just presents an idea of how many people are all in on this, and them proudly proclaiming this as some sort of policy makes the rest of us go, I don't know that you need to do that. And don't be surprised if there's going to be some fallout and some consequence where you don't get the best grapplers in there. So it's about to be a very interesting time in the world, Tim. But why don't we go ahead and turn to our next topic of conversation here, which surprisingly isn't that far off from this entire world. So yes, we did talk about that. We talked about the exclusivity. We're going to move the board forward right here and see as we continue on the topics for this week. So yes, we did discuss ADCC and misstep or in the right direction, but I have to bring this up. We just spent a whole segment talking about the fact that UFC BJJ is banning the ADCC, taking the side of the ADCC, and this week, some good news. Guess what? They are increasing the pay for the men. And ladies, don't worry. Yeah, it's not great still. But maybe something interesting that will happen for you. Tim, what is happening in the world of the ADCC and what prompted all of this?
So ADCC came out and announced that they are going to be doubling the prize money for the men's division winners. So previously it was $10,000 for first place. Now it's going to be 20. Second place gets 10K, third place gets 3, fourth place gets $1,000. That is for the men's division. Absolute men's division, 50 G's, first place, blah, blah, blah. All right. So That's great. Everybody's happy about that. The problem is that the pay in the women's division has not changed. It's exactly the same, and there's a pretty decent sized disparity in there. And there's an argument to be made that okay, the men, in pro sports, like people jump on men's basketball gets more than women's basketball. Okay, that's true, but generally in grappling, the male and female athletes compete on the same cards. There's not like a whole other league that just has women's events and no men are in that, and that's only women. And there's a whole other league that's just all men. They're kind of under the same umbrella. They're all athletes that work for the organization, that compete for it. And because of that, I think that is the argument to be made. Just if you're taking everything out of it, these are athletes that are not making the same amount as your other athletes. Now, if it was a whole separate organization, then whatever, like, they're going to pay different. Okay, that's their prerogative. This is a little different. And it's curious to me that every single time ADCC makes a move to go like, hey, look what we did, and they pat themselves on the back and they're like, check it out, everybody, they leave this big space for Craig Jones to come in and just gut punch him and then bring the left hook with, here's some money I'm going to give away to the people you jacked over because you didn't make it right. So Craig Jones says that he mentions the Fair Fight Foundation. I don't know if they're going to be monetarily involved, but they're going to cover the gap between the salaries between the women and the men's, which is pretty awesome. And what a great idea, Craig Jones. And to be honest, Raf, I'm like, I wouldn't mind if Craig Jones, I know a couple guys that need their bank accounts topped off. Like, Craig, if you're listening, like, we got a big pay gap here, man. Like, we can use some help. But man, I think it's cool that he's doing that. I like that Craig he hangs around just enough that he gets to pick his shots. And these guys make it way, way too easy for them.
You know what's really annoying about this, though, Tim? We just spent time bitching about the UFC BJJ's position on ADCC. Right. And then what does ADCC do? Not great stuff always themselves. When they're like, hey, we increased the pay. Shut up, everybody. Did you do it for the women? I said, shut up, everybody. It's the exact same. Like, to the rest of us here, we're trying to justify it. And to my knowledge, this was something that was reported. There's not going to be a women's absolute. So not only are they not paying you more, but some article was claiming, and we're trying to fact check this, but it's very difficult to do when the only source of information is Mo, who has his lives disappear after, so that you could easily just be like, I didn't say that. Where do you have evidence of that? So I'm trying to figure this out for us. Like, why are we going so hard in the paint? And then you get Craig, who comes out of the blue and says, we'll cover the distance. Okay. We're supposed to feel better about the fact that Craig is going to cover the gap between what the women should be paid and what they are currently being paid. It sounds wholesome, but why does it feel like it is a GoFundMe solution? You ever notice that? Whenever somebody who's near and dear to you has any bad problems coming up, they have to start a GoFundMe, and it is a gut punch to all of us whenever we see people that we love and we want to help and we want to take care of, when sometimes you think, oh, the healthcare system's kind of messed up. Okay? I think we can say the same about the ADCC pay structure, where you go, couldn't you just look in some couch cushions and find that money? Because you paid so much more to go to the T-Mobile Arena than you are in your payments to the athletes. And you're going to, what, Poland? How much are they charging you there? Like, I would like to know. I don't think it's as much as the T-Mobile Arena. So maybe you're saving some money. You can re-put that into the bankroll to pay the athletes. That's the hope. Like, why else do it internationally? That only makes sense. Get less for the building cost. And yet, at the very end of this is, well, the only way we can solve this problem is if you can help donate and take care of it. What's that? Craig Jones is going to do it? Sounds great. I know that this is a noble gesture. I know it's great. But for an organization that's supposed to be helping people in need, taking money to help women who should just be paid by the organization, and that we can't make good enough efforts or arguments that they should be paid fairly. Like, we're not appealing to the ADCC organization. We're just helping them bypass an issue that they refuse to solve themselves. That is inherently bad. And yes, Craig can be petty and he can get away with this, and it is kind of funny. But by and large, this is their problem to solve, and they're not doing it. And if anything, I wonder if they're going to start being like, well, you know, Craig, can you pay for the women's housing too? Because we don't feel like paying that either. Like, at what point does that stop for the organization?
Craig's
Could you imagine this? Okay, new example. Could you imagine if, let's just say, in the world of ice hockey, Donald Trump said, guess what? We're not going to pay for the women's ice hockey's flights home. Oh, you won a gold medal? Tough shit. Spirit Airlines it is for you.
Oof.
I'm just wondering if our sport sees the very beginnings of what other sports are held accountable to, and if we crumble in our execution of explaining it, because every argument you see is written by some dumb incel that is basically giving you the justification, I don't wanna. And honestly, sometimes I think most people would prefer I don't wanna as opposed to a whole diatribe about why women's sports don't deserve the money. So for me, I'm telling you this right now. This is a short-term solution for the ADCC. I wish they got their shit together. We actually are rooting for them to have people from UFC BJJ, and maybe they don't give a shit because they just do their own event and they got plenty of people that are built in to believe this is where you make yourself the world champion. But it didn't take long for the ADCC to become the IBJJF, and all of this is all upside down. And I'm trying to figure out how we continue to build the sport when now we're getting multiple variations of, that doesn't seem good. No, we shouldn't do this. And we get people who aren't necessarily trying to find the best ideas, but mostly just making the arguments on what we can get away with. It's mostly what it feels like.
Yeah, no, you're very spot on, and it isn't good. I mean, why don't we just make the ladies like shill their own tickets, you know, and you just get a cut of each ticket you sell to have your family buy a table at ADCC, you know, like we'll squeeze you in. That's where, I mean, look, we all know who I'm talking about. That's not far behind if this is where we're going.
It's turning into bottle service. Did you get bottle service? You got a bonus at ADCC.
Hey.
It's infuriating. And it's something that when you look at it, you're sidestepping the responsibility where it should fall on the production and the organization.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. They've really done a number on some of these fans to make them justify that the simplest of asks, the ones that make the most sense, like, hey, let's increase pay. All right, fine. It took nearly 30 years for that to happen. Okay. Well, how about you pay the women the same? I mean, you just got more money for the dudes. Oh, you guys are just asking for too much. And I think because we don't see what cash flow goes in and out, there's no way to figure out what accountability is. So I think we're just in a weird space of, well, you just got to believe them. They have our best interests at heart. What could possibly go wrong here? We don't know what the Flow Grappling distribution deal is, but I sure do know the NBA distribution deal, and I think that's a real difference between a pro sport and whatever we sometimes are. So, Godspeed to us. Hopefully, we make something of it. Speaking of the IBJJF, I'll start with this. Yesterday, they had a Grand Prix. Victor Hugo was the gentleman who ended up winning the whole big dance, and that was incredible. Now, I know we like to pick on things here, and we have certain disagreements, but I have to tell you one thing. The presentation for the Grand Prix looked pretty cool. To their credit, the IBJJF, the way that it looked from the mats to the background, I thought was a pretty good looking product. Tim, how were the matches themselves?
Well, and this is the rub with the IBJJF is that the matches, because of the rule set, you have guys winning these Grand Prix on decisions, on points, and that's kind of the spirit of no-gi jiu-jitsu is a very submission-only kind of approach, and I think that's what kind of drags the matches down a little bit. To be honest with you, the presentation was good, and Victor Hugo, like, props to him, man. He walked away with 50 G's. That's awesome. The fact that there are multiple promotions now giving away decent size prizes is amazing, dude. Like, because 10 years ago, this was not happening, not at this level. You had to go to EBI and you had to heel hook 4 dudes in a night to walk away with that kind of bread. And yes, the Danaher Death Squad almost bankrupt Eddie Bravo because they went, I think they did maybe 4 in a row, man. They just subbed it out. But it's great to see this. It's just my beef was the format of the matches. They had some good super fights. Cole Abate was on there. He picked up a win. But again, his win was a 2-1 on advantages. And Helena Cravar, she had a nice Darce choke. Sarah Goval had a nice armbar. So there were some good matches, and I like the idea. But it's some, I don't know what it is, but there's something about when the IBJJF puts on an event. It's like taking jiu-jitsu at your church. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I'm doing martial arts, but I'm doing church karate. There's just, I don't know what it is. It's like, this is supposed to be cool, but you guys like kind of make it old and not as cool as it could be, for lack of a better way to explain it.
Well, that's a bummer. Okay. I saw clips of it. I did preview everybody, and I did tell everybody on this show I would probably forget, and I did. But in my defense, I got free Clippers tickets, so I did go see that. That was fun. There might have been more fights on the Clipper floor than there were at the IBJJF. Unclear. But, listen. I want the IBJJF to be successful as well. And I mean, this whole event seems like a response to them not paying their athletes. So they want to come up with like a showcase presentation. I think they have a look, the aesthetic of it, the tune-in ability, not sure. And I don't know what they can do per se that they can do within the realm of what they normally do. Meaning, in order to take the extra level to make it more interesting to a general audience, I think they have to have a want to do that. I don't think that they have a want to do something outside of the scope of the people they already appeal to.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think that's what hinders it, and that's what makes it frustrating, because you look at it and you say, I think at its core, it could be quite fascinating to have that tier of talent and to have them that interested. But it does present a limitation of the IBJJF, unfortunately. So we will see how that progresses in time. But, you know, I was rooting for you guys. And,
yeah. And to their credit, those are 2 very different business models, putting on, fight night style promotions versus running tournaments. And when it comes to running tournaments, for all the smack I give them and talk about them, they're the best in the game. Like, they have the largest tournaments for the amount of people they run through there. They have fixed a lot of problems that used to exist in the IBJJF that are no longer there. They take that part of their business pretty seriously. And obviously they're good at it because they're growing and they're everywhere. The super fight thing, though, is kind of a different, and I sometimes wonder if maybe there's another team doing that, or it is the same team, but they just don't quite get it the same way, if that makes sense.
It does. And it's, listen, man, maybe they just don't want a better show than that. Like, that might be it. They might be like, hey, you know what? This is our shut up show so that you guys stop complaining.
Right.
And we've given it to you and we're not doing any more. That's it. That's all we're giving you. And at least you guys got that response out of them, because getting paid from the IBJJF was a long time criticism. Now, are they getting paid less at ADCC than they do at IBJJF? Very confusing, very different. I don't know how this all plays out, but we are starting to see the elements of competition seep in. And when the top of the food chain as a machine with the UFC says, hey, we're going to come into this business and we're going to push some of you around, it's not dissimilar to what they do with other MMA organizations. And they have a few that they partner with where they're like, these are our buddies, we like them. But by and large, it does kill things at the biggest of levels, so that when you do see lawsuits like that happening, you're not going to see that happening in jiu-jitsu. Not for a long ass time, until you get somebody who would be, wait a second, like a Mikey Musumeci, who otherwise chooses not to do it. And I think that's kind of the rationale behind it, which is, hey man, he's comfortable, he doesn't have to worry. But I do wonder if he ever gets wronged, how quickly he's going to take to the internet to let people know how wronged he is. So,
he's Italian. Like, Italians don't debate, they complain and argue. I'm Italian, I can say that. I'm a very proud Italian, but that we will take it to the internet for sure.
Of course. Why don't we advance before the estate of Martin Scorsese comes after us? This is the next topic we have for you guys. The GOAT himself, Roger Gracie, is telling us, do we really need the Olympics? And I'm not sure I disagree with him. Obviously, he's the GOAT for a reason, but Tim, can you outline his position for us?
Yeah, and these are the classical positions that have been talked about for a long time, and I agree with him too. It just seems like every few weeks there's somebody who comes out and says, like, we're trying to get it in the Olympics, and there's somebody else who's a major player or a major name who says, like, I don't want it in the Olympics. So it was the I don't want it in the Olympics turn this week, and Roger Gracie came out, and his criticism, I think, is valid in that the concern is that once your sport gets into the Olympics, the drive behind it is about accessibility. It's about being able to broadcast it, being able to standardize it in a certain way. It has to, the time has to fit, the rules have to be a certain way. And it can fundamentally change a lot of aspects of jiu-jitsu. And we've seen this in judo in the Olympics. And when your sport gets in the Olympics will drive the rest of your sport. And you'll see schools and organizations adapt to those rules. And that would fundamentally change the martial art. And the point he brings up is Taekwondo in the Olympics. Now, Taekwondo is legitimate, but in the Olympics, it's touch Kwando. Like, if you actually hit somebody, you're going to get penalized. You can't hit anybody hard. And you just can't do submission grappling that way. It just doesn't exist. I think they've done a good job with wrestling. You know, wrestling's in pretty close alignment with the Olympics. And that doesn't seem to be a big problem. It's just like jiu-jitsu still our baby. You know, even though it's way more popular than what it was, say 15 or 20 years ago, it's still our baby. And I don't want to give this to the Olympics to see it get bastardized potentially. And I think that's the major pushback on it. Will it get there? It might. You know, I don't think it'll be jiu-jitsu in the gi, but it could get there.
I've said this plenty of times. I'll say it again. Our athletes aren't ready to be on an Olympic level sort of arena. Like, they just don't have the media training. We're trying. God knows we're trying. But just the way they conduct themselves and the amount of autism jokes, I don't think would really play well on NBC. Just guessing.
Yeah.
I
I
think
think
that there would have to be a lot more media training. There would have to be a lot more presentation. I think the matches could work well. I think we would have similar aspects of our actual athletic competition that would be interesting to people. Storytelling, we're all working on. There's a lot of different organizations. I think the PGF does a great job. Um, but by and large, if you put some of our athletes under a stress test on how they respond in that public limelight, let's just say like Gordon comes out of retirement to do this. It's not looking good. Yeah, that dude's not going to know how to talk on camera. Not at all. Doesn't mean it doesn't work for streaming or for smaller organizations or for different people, but we're talking a worldwide audience where sometimes even laughing at a joke on a phone can be a controversial thing. Just think of all the missteps our athletes would do. Maybe we're better just existing. I think the one thing that's most interesting element of what Hodger was saying, though, was when he was making the point, I mean, MMA is more suited for it. And I think that's an interesting proposition. I think there might be an audience to see MMA and get excited about that sort of thing. It works for boxing, it works for wrestling. There is a desire to see combat sports in that way. But again, I do feel normally the people who are the gentlemen who and the ladies who represent a country are pretty young. And most MMA athletes who are super young, it's a lot more training. I work with a lot of athletes who are just at the very beginnings of their career, and learning how to tell their story is incredibly difficult. Sometimes it has emotions. Because if you think about it like this, nobody really says in skiing, I went into skiing because I got bullied.
right.
So there's a lot of
Curling.
trauma that happens to our athletes at the very beginning of their career, or a lot of emotional issues that they find a vehicle that they know how to channel their violence. And yeah, it happens in other sports for sure. But it really does feel like a synonymous thing with our athletes where they have to talk about some things that would almost land you in therapy. So it's not that it's impossible. It's just I think we need to develop a little bit more. But I am interested in MMA in the Olympics. However, if you really want to see regulations get things murked up, ooh, watch that to happen. And man, I'd love to see the Olympics policy on eye pokes, because I think that would be really fun to watch a committee come together and have major discussions and analytic papers on. But nonetheless, Tim, I feel like that is going to do it for that. It appears that tomorrow is a big event as well. There's going to be another installment of Real American Freestyle. What can you tell us about that event, Tim?
So Friday night. Oh, no. I'm sorry. Saturday. Well, tonight's Friday. Holy moly. Henry Cejudo versus Uriah Faber, main event at RAF, Real American Freestyle 6, live at the Mullet Arena, which is maybe my favorite name for an arena in Tempe, Arizona. Very fitting that it's in Tempe. Henry Cejudo, look, world-class wrestler, Olympian, gold medal winner wrestler, multiple-time UFC champion. He's going up against the California kid, Uriah Faber, who is very decorated. Not quite as decorated, but very decorated. Going to be a great matchup. The thing here is Cejudo's 38, which isn't young, but, still in his 30s. Faber's 46. And he's still getting out there grappling. I'm not sure what the matchup is going to look like in terms of the speed. And wrestling's very speed dependent, especially at this size. But I think it's cool that these guys who are getting in their 40s, guys like Benson Henderson, who's on the card, 42 years old, they're finding ways to compete. He's taking on Aljamain Sterling. Again, two former UFC champions getting after it at Real American Freestyle. So I really like these events. The matches are fun to watch. They're not long and drawn out. They're easy to understand. They present them relatively well. And I think they're honing in on the business model. And I'm paying attention to it because from a jujitsu standpoint, there's things in that we might be able to glean and take out or collaborate on as we move forward. Because at the end of the day, it's all grappling. It's just the rule sets are kind of dictating how the matches play out, and some rule sets play to better skills, different sets of skills. And so we're going to see guys like Faber and Cejudo in these events. And I think it's nice that this is something that's outside of the realm of the UFC, and it's outside of the realm of the jiu-jitsu world. So we can just see how another silo does it and see if there's anything in there we could pull out of it.
Thank you for that, Tim. And listen, dude, I'm all for having Masters Division competition for these athletes. Great. Keeps them out of all of our brackets at ADCCs for Open. It keeps them out of brackets at like Nagas when you show up and you're like, is he my favorite in my division? That dick.
Right. Yeah. Great.
So
it's a terrible feeling when you fight some guy. You're a 43-year-old black belt who got his black belt a year ago, and you're competing against some guy that's been a black belt since he was 18. And by the way, he won worlds at 26. Like, good luck, dude.
For sure, JT Torres. For sure.
Yeah.
All good. Yeah, I definitely want a round with that guy. So, okay. I think we have exhausted that. Good luck to all those folks competing there. We've seen some good traction from that, and I'm excited to see what the results are. All right. So it looks like ATOS is making a policy change, or at least one where they're incentivizing with a new program. It seems that they are going to offer an opportunity to women to join their women's program for free. Tim, what else can you tell us about that policy?
So ATOS Jiu-Jitsu has come out, made an announcement, and I do want to make this distinction just to be clear, though. There's a handful of European affiliates, France and Switzerland and Spain, that are offering these structured programs. They're calling them ATOS Pink Team is the name of it, and it's going to be free self-defense program for women. And I like the idea. Look, I have a free women's jiu-jitsu class in Nashville. We've had it for a long time because I think it's important, and it's already hard enough to like get people in to come train who are ladies. So I'm trying to remove those barriers. Just like, hey, even if you never sign up, if you learn something here that could help you, then great. I did my job. I feel good about that. I'm okay with that. I'm happy about that. So I'm not really knocking that it's free. It's just, this is like, it's very, very tricky when you are part of an organization that has some allegations that are not good, and then you react with, oh yeah, but now we're going to do this to like prove that we're not bad like that. And I think in the eye of the public, it's very delicate how it's perceived, very delicate. And if you don't get the messaging right, then you leave it up to the receiver of the message to define your message and your intent. And it's not going to be good because it's already kind of has like a little bit of a coloring on it in a negative way already. So while I think it's a good idea to do this, I think it would have been an even better idea to be very, very clear and specific about the messaging, so it doesn't appear to be, this is just a PR thing, this is a CYA thing. Look, I understand it. If I had an ATOS affiliate that had not like, just running a gym, you could be a stand-up dude with a great group of people, you're treating everybody just like they should be treated, but you're connected to this name that has dirt on it. So I get the kind of gut reaction to go like, let's do something good and to kind of make it look good. But I don't know. I think there's potential for it to be received the wrong way. And we've seen these kinds of things already play out. The internet, we love to knock people off their peg. So while I agree with it, I don't think the messaging was clear enough.
Okay. we've had multiple instances of this just in this one episode. Does it not seem that most of the things we've talked about today, as policy shifts in the world of jiu-jitsu, are mostly just responses that echo the statement, yeah, yeah, shut up. Fine, here, this. Is that good? Do you want that? Because
Yeah.
in this particular case, there are serious allegations. There's a lot of back and forth as to are they true? Am I going to stay with this organization? And then having this policy come out at a time like this, it does seem a little complicated to throw support behind it because there's a part of you that wonders, well, what have you really done to make the adjustments? If the policy is we don't feel they did anything wrong, and you're a woman and you have the ability to support an organization, do you feel like you want to go to that organization right now? And I think that is the larger issue. I think you probably have to start with the climate and the actual community that you built and address that seriously. And removing the figureheads, while not necessarily ascribing blame, which maybe you don't do for legal purposes, but before you would even think about announcing a women's program, and maybe they're doing it because it's fledgling now and they want to do it as an area to reinstill faith, it just seems a little bit soon. And I feel like that's when you mentioned the messaging is critical. It's got to be a, hey, we heard you. We want to build your trust back. We want to build this out here. Instead, it is here's a women's program. There you go. Does that do something for you? It's kind of the ellipsis interpretation I think people are getting. So I also wonder, this is now an organization that is essentially not including, quote unquote, Sarah and Andre, or I'm sorry, Angelica and Andre, but that Sarah is now the head of in terms of instruction. So I just don't know if that's a good enough gesture from the organization to do anything on that side. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Wish them the best, because I think the unfortunate part of this whole situation is there are probably a lot of good people who didn't do anything wrong who are implicated in this. And that maybe they don't know. It's hard for any of us on the outside to know all of that. And while we have been told by multiple people that there are people who just shunned it, it would be difficult to believe everybody knew the exclusive details as intimately as everybody else. At least that's what you hope. And we don't know any of this for certain. So it is a lot of us having to use good faith and saying, I hope everything's on the up and up, and maybe that community thrives and finds a way to heal itself. But as a gesture in terms of the rest of us looking in, I do think it could have been done a little bit better. So there is that.
It's like, when your wife is like, you don't kiss me on the lips anymore. We never go on dates. And then you're like, all right. And you take her. You're like, I took you on. We went out to El Torito's 3 months ago. It feels like that, like just like, all right. Yeah, I took you out.
I'll make sure to tell Kelly the exact phraseology. We'll see how well that goes.
Yeah. I mean, the women love that joke every time I use it.
Oh, for sure. 100%. All right. Well, let's go to our low light highlight of the week. Tim, what can you tell us about this week's fight of the week, sir?
This is it's a police fight, but it has a big swerve in it. And it's one of the best police fights I've ever seen, Raf. It's short and sweet. And, there's an interesting thing that takes place when multiple people try to grab one person, where the multitude of people get in each other's way. And I swear that the ghost of Charlie Chaplin came back and directed this whole thing the way it played out. But this definitely was a chef's kiss from our Lord and Savior, because this is one of the best videos I've seen in a long time. I laughed very, very hard. going through this, and I think you will appreciate it. There's a few things I wanted to ask you this. There's a couple things I wanted to call out. If I go like, hey, can you pause it? Can you pause it at a certain point or just run it back? Is that possible? A tiny bit?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay,
it's just hard because I think you see it like 3 seconds.
Yeah,
almost on a delay. So just try to hit me with that knowledge, because I can definitely do what I can, but I can't anticipate notes that I don't know. So I'm going to set it up here. Hold on. Okay, first things first. Tim, it's already starting off very strong, but I'm going to press play here. Feel free to walk us through what you need to walk us through, sir.
Okay, we got Beetle Bailey here and his partner cracking dude on the head in the empanada line. And but just run it back real quick. Dude with the taser, he's got a yellow taser. It looks like he's got a squirt gun. He's literally chasing the dude with what looks to be like a squirt gun. And then if you just watch, there's another officer who's actually got the full catcher's gear. He's got the UFC gloves, but he's on his break. He's sitting on the ground against the wall. He looks like a Saddam Hussein lookalike back in the day. And he's just chilling, totally not getting involved while these guys are trying to take this dude down. Go ahead, kick it through. And you can see he just squirts out around these guys. He's like, no, I'm going to run over here. Now the Policia cruiser thinks about taking him out, goes, no. And then Officer Wiggum gets out and just cracks his partner. Chief Wiggums takes dude out right at the end. And if you check, Glendola's up there ordering a torta at the window right when the fight breaks out, and she just looks at it like, nah. There's even a canine. There's a canine who comes up at the far end of the cruiser, and even he thinks twice about going after the guy. You'll just briefly see him. Watch this. After the cop takes his partner out, you'll see the police dog trail right around the corner of the cruiser. He's like, nah, I'm not getting involved in this madness. Guillermo got taken out hard, dude. He got it hard, man.
Tim, it's taken a lot of these to really get this kind of response out of me. But, all right. You got most of the gold stuff, but let's get to it. First things first, this cop dude's coming in and trying to hit them with one of the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger helmets. And not doing too successful here. But you will see the bigger dude from Modern Family not standing for it. Very much getting right back into his face. And this is where I love it, because this dude with the sunglasses looks like if Elton John was a lesbian. So I love the look on all three of their faces, because they're the two cops and homegirl ordering in the back who cannot be bothered. So listen, she's going to do what she needs to do, and as she should. Let's continue to play this here for a second. What I love about physical comedy is when something emulates the Three Stooges without trying. Because the choreography here is 100% silent film star. Watch them all circle in different ways. Circle. Now, listen, dude. You were bringing up the fact that it looks like a squirt gun. Why is this dude looking like somebody from a Pixar film who's trying to apprehend somebody? Like, he's got one of the Buzz Lightyear fucking little guns here. Can't shoot him. And now, this is what I love. Nothing says I am competent at my job like putting a handle on your buddy and being like, don't move, hold on, I got him. No, just don't move. I've got him. Holds him in place. Loses him. Turns out that hand stabilization wasn't great. Now, on the bottom, you brought this up, but I want to really emphasize here. When you talk about tactical approaches, who's the person that got stationed to sit down as part of the apprehension protocol? Because when you Pan over. Dude was already sitting down. What do you mean you
leaning
get to
against the
sit
wall.
down? Who gets that job? Is it me? Because I want to be the dude sitting down while the rest of you guys go run after. But you know the one reason I don't want to be sitting down? Because this dude's holding the taser and I'm right in the line of sight of that. This is 100% a 17-second video worth of gold because of all the faulty things that happen in that amount of time. They can't keep this dude down, and then he runs away like a white kid in an argument in a suburb. He just basically goes, "I hate you, mom and dad. I hate you. Get out of my life." And they all run after it. Now, Tim, listen, we've been doing this for a while now. This moment is so magical. It is straight from a Naked Gun movie. And I am just captivated. You literally, I swear to God, Tim, if you had just sent me the 5 ending seconds of this video, literal tears would have happened on my face. I had other moments to get ready, and I was already kind of laughing. But this to me is the gold that my dad introduced to me with Naked Gun. Literally just on fucking replay. Whoop!
Oh,
It's just
that's the Elton John guy that got cracked too. He's like the total.
love, last feeling. Ah!
Every time something goes wrong, that guy's in the scene.
Just goodbye, Norman. Oh! Can you feel? Oh! It's so good.
I'm still scared. No,
Wait,
no, I'm not.
you're right. That's the one. Did the thing that I ever did a good amount? Ah! Wait, I'll do it one more time. Because I'm still standing better than. Ah! It's so stupid. All right. Well, Tim, I think our work here is done. One more time. Just, I'm going to let it play. I'm not even going to talk.
Zoinks.
It's great. All right, let me take it away. It's beautiful. That shit's going to give me 3 more years of life just looking at it. Woo! Okay, Tim, tell the people where they can find you, sir.
You can find me at Inside BJJ on all your favorite social media platforms, and especially on Kick, kick.com, KICK.com. You can check out the Grappling Hour, Inside BJJ, and the Bullpen. PGF is going to be there every Wednesday night as well. RAF, great show tonight. Listen, I love all the serious stuff. It's great. But the laughter at the end really set it off for me, man. So I'm going to have a great, great weekend just based on that. That was fantastic.
Well, did you think who could ever win? Look at me, I'm a ah! So good. This shit's so funny. Like, legitimately, the ghost of my dad fell into my body and was just like, yup, that's the perfect dad humor you will ever have. Because when you're like, a little something unexpected happens at the end, I'm like, what? He falls? Oh, no, he got knocked out by a police car? Fuck, yeah, that's pretty good. Woo! Okay. Tim,
That's good, man.
Great work today. Appreciate you, sir. I'm looking forward to previewing and hosting all of these PGF sort of events. And if you haven't followed him or myself, I'm on Grappling Hour. You can follow him at Inside BJJ on Kick specifically, because we're going to be doing some fun stuff on Kick. So we hope that you guys make time to hang out with us in the near future. But Tim, I'll let you get on out of here while I close this on up. But my thanks to you for a great show today, sir.
Thanks, partner.
All right, you guys. All right. Before we get out of here, a few quick things. Number one, your boy is going to be heading over to a gala here in a second. Yeah, you heard me. A gala. Some of you say gala. I say gala. I'm not sure if either is right, honestly. But tonight there is a gala for Love Movement. We have a lot of friends who are doing an exhibition match for charity. The Love Movement charity has helped homeless individuals or unhoused individuals here in Los Angeles, as well as providing education for a school and youth programs out in Africa. Super, super great charity. We love what they do. And our good friend Milton Arguello is going to be competing tonight in a couple exhibition matches, and I'm very excited to have helped him a little bit with his grappling side. But we have a lot of fun things planned on that event, and I'm going to be heading out here in just a second. But if you do have chances to go view it, go check it out. It's going to be downtown Los Angeles. It is off Pico somewhere. I mean, I'll put up a poster, I'm sure, somewhere in there. But if you have the chance, Love Movement, look them up at Love Movement. Be there. I'm going to be there. Come say hi if you can. So there is that. Then this coming Wednesday, your boy will be out in Las Vegas. I'll be hosting the PGF pre-show, and then we're going to watch 30 matches back to back to back. And then at the very end of that experience, you're going to see me do the post-show where I'll interview some of the best athletes from that day and help you get to know them a little bit better. So we got all that stuff coming up, plus a lot more. So check out the Grappling Hour for some brand new interviews. We have a host of interviews that are still, I think, to make their way. And then I've got some that are still in the bank that are going to come out this week. I just moved recently, so I need a few days to get those all edited and whatnot. But this weekend, we're recording 3 with some standouts from the RFL. I'm very excited for that. So that's tomorrow, Sunday, and Monday, I'm doing interviews with some local talent, and I'm hoping you'll like them as much as we did in their fights. I think that's going to do it for us, friends. It has been a great day for grappling. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you back on the mats.